Welcome to CT Expert Insights. When your business needs people it can trust, you can count on us. We dedicate ourselves to getting to know your needs and finding solutions to meet them. You'll have a team of experts backing you up.
Hi, I'm Greg Corumbus. Our guest this week on Expert Insights is John Jantsch. He's a veteran marketing coach and award-winning blogger. He's the author of Duct Tape Marketing, and his brand new book is The Self-Reliant Entrepreneur, which you can find at selfreliantentrepreneur.com. Today, we are going to be talking about how to properly scale your small business. And we'll be talking about brands, energy, hiring, delegation, all sorts of good things, as well as how precisely to do all that. And so, John, it's great to have you back.
Oh, thank you, Greg.
Well, our podcast goes to existing and aspiring entrepreneurs, and I'm guessing that the vast majority of both understand what scaling is. But just to make sure we're all starting off on the same foot here, what does it mean to scale a business?
It's related to growth, but it's not the same thing. In other words, there are a lot of people that grow by getting a lot of clients, but then they can't handle the work that they're doing because, they don't have, assignments and processes and things. So to me, scale is a way to build your business in a way that it can grow predictably, consistently, and profitably without driving the owner crazy.
Always a good thing, especially if you want to keep growing. There are many different factors here, and we're going to focus on a handful of them in the time that we have together. First of all, defining your brand. We talked in another podcast about defining your customer, but defining your brand. Explain that.
Well, I think one of the goals with that is, a lot of times people scale for scale's sake. And one of the things about defining your brand is really a lot of, what's our purpose? What's our mission? What are we trying to accomplish, by scaling this thing? I mean, it might be that we just want to build this thing and get nice revenue and sell it. But for a lot of people, it's I want to have impact. I want this thing to change a wrong that's in the world. So the first step really then is, that's the essence of a brand is what are we trying to accomplish? What impact are we trying to have? Obviously, then we layer on, how do we message that? How do we tell the story so that others are attracted to, that idea and that mission? Obviously, comes down to little things like what's our website look like? What are our colors? All those kinds of things. But ultimately, the goal is if we're going to scale this thing, we have to understand why and where we're going and the impact we're trying to have, because that will ultimately become your brand.
John, let's get into a little more detail with what you mentioned even in your first response about what scaling is, and that's the importance of processes and systems. Yeah. Obviously, when you first build a business, you need organization, you need to have a plan to deal with all the different aspects of running a business, but you might not be an expert on every single thing. So how do you build these processes and systems that eventually, hopefully, for the most part, just self-perpetuate?
Yeah, so the first step for me, and again, this evolves. This isn't like you don't sit on day one and you work this out. This is something that you continually have to come back to, maybe quarterly in some businesses, but certainly frequently. You first have to decide, what needs to be done. A lot of people do it backwards, and they start trying to hire some people. And, once you get past one person, we start thinking about who needs to do what. And I think the first step is what needs to be done. So if we want to grow this business, if we want our customers to have a consistent experience, if we want to develop, processes or services that we're going to deliver, consistently, we have to start saying, okay, we have a finance function and we have an operations function and a marketing function, for example. What needs to be done in marketing for us to accomplish our goals? Okay. A lot of times we'll work with folks and just actually have them do an org chart. What are all the boxes that go into there? It doesn't matter if you don't have 20 people, what are the functions that need to be done? Because that's how we start identifying, okay, how do we replace the fact that the owner of the business is doing, half of this stuff, half of it's not getting done, that's when we can start saying, okay, do we need people? Do we need to outsource, say, our bookkeeping or our accounting? How do we make sure that, social media is getting done? And so that's step number one. From there, you can actually start to say, okay, if I'm the owner of the business and I'm still doing payroll, that's taking an inordinate amount of my time that really doesn't have much payoff. Let's start figuring out, what we can get, off of the plate of people so that we can focus on the highest payoff work.
Exactly, and that goes into a lot of the different other strategies and priorities when it comes to scaling, including refocusing energy, hiring the right people, delegating work, and that sort of thing. In your experience, whether it's personal or the clients that you've had, how tough is it to let go, even when you do have the right people and you've got the right tasks assigned to the right people?
The world is littered with businesses that have failed because the owner of the business, just couldn't let go of the things that they thought should be done and how they should be done. And that's not to say that you just hire people and, hope they figure it out. The most successful businesses, if they want somebody to have a certain experience a certain way, they attract people, first off, that believe in the mission, believe in the service that they're providing, and then they teach them how to do the systems that run that business. And so one of the tough things about letting go is a lot of business owners abdicate things. They say, "Oh, good, I hired somebody to do social media," and then 2 weeks in, they're like, "Well, that's not how I do it." And so anytime you delegate something, you need to delegate it with a plan. You need to delegate it with a system, maybe even something as simple as a checklist, so that people understand, how to win the game. That aspect is what really trips a lot of people up. So just basic things they can't get off their plate. But then there are certain things that if you, in most businesses, the founder of that business is also the rainmaker, the chief salesperson. And in most businesses, if you can't find a way to replace yourself as the owner of the business as being the top salesperson and the top person who delivers, whatever service the customer gets, particularly in a service business, then you'll really never be free of the business, and you'll never be able to scale it. So, the tough thing is you've got to get the stuff that you shouldn't be doing or you can't do off your plate so that you can then go to work on delegating or creating process for the core components of the business.
Obviously, delegation requires hiring the right people. So regardless of what the position is, how do you know you've hired the right person?
I would never call myself an expert on that question, but I do know that the best hires in my experience have always been people that I hired because of their values and their beliefs and their interest in what we were trying to do, as opposed to their resume and what they've done in their past experience. In fact, some of the best people that I've hired had no experience at all in what I was asking them to do, but they had such a great heart and such a great love for what we were trying to do and who we were trying to serve that they were able to make decisions and do things that benefited the business and benefited our customers, because that was really where they started.
So character matters as much, if not more, than qualifications sometimes.
I mean, obviously, if you've got somebody that they need to program, Ruby on Rails, language or something for your software, that's important. But most of the jobs, particularly jobs where people are going to interact with your customers, character matters more than their experience, I think, all day long.
Let's talk a little bit about delegation. Depending on the size of the business, I guess it can look a lot of different ways. How much tinkering does that generally require to make sure you're operating at maximum efficiency, because the people with the most skills and the most drive in a given area are doing exactly what they should be doing? That's
an area that has evolved so much over the last decade because of the ability to work, globally, to collaborate, to get the best of class for the most specific things that you need done. And so instead of delegation being, I need to hire a person and then figure out what they do, which unfortunately is what a lot of businesses do, I'm a huge proponent of, if I have this very specific need, find the best person. Maybe it's a project, maybe it's 10 hours a week, whatever it is. Find the best person to do that specific thing I need done, and build your organization around that concept of delegating to people who have a very specific skill, particularly for technical things, as opposed to hiring people and hoping you can build a job around them.
As you mentioned earlier, John, and we're down to our last minute or so here, we're talking with John Jantsch, veteran marketing coach. The new book is The Self-Reliant Entrepreneur. You're always playing around with this. You're never just setting something in motion and walking away from it, although on some level you want to be able to walk away if you need to or simply want to. But what you put in place isn't necessarily going to stay that way. How do you know that you've gotten to the point where you have scaled and you can step away as the business owner, knowing that you have put together a system and a series of systems to have the business operate even if you can't be there?
Well, I already mentioned them. I think to me the two keys are that your business is still able to land customers, whatever that means to you, and that you're able to provide the product or service to those customers and have them have a great experience. And the owner of the business doesn't have to materially participate in any of that. I think that's the point at which you can say, okay, I can leave for a week, and not come back and find a parking lot.
That's a good way to put it. Oh, fantastic. John, thank you again for fantastic insights. We appreciate your time very much.
You bet, Greg.
John Jantsch, veteran marketing coach, award-winning blogger, author of Duct Tape Marketing. The new book is The Self-Reliant Entrepreneur, 366 Daily Meditations to Feed Your Soul and Grow Your Business. You can find that at selfreliantentrepreneur.com. I'm Greg Corombos, and for more information on this topic, please call CT at 844-787-7782.
With 125 years of experience, CT is here to help you at every stage of the business life cycle.